Day. And Memphis, we've got some news coming up here in a few seconds about a guy that we were already about to talk about. My girl Jane Slater, everybody's girl these days, with respect to the Dallas Cowboys and everything that goes on with the Dallas Cowboys. Breaking some news with respect to your man Dak Prescott. Now, let's preface this by talking about this first, okay? Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, who's still not in camp, Amari Cooper, all looking for brand new contracts, okay? The Dallas Cowboys lost 19-7 over the weekend to the San Francisco 49ers out there in Santa Clara. But the news, of course, Ezekiel Elliott still not in camp yet. And then there was reports over the weekend that your man Dakota Rain Prescott declined a $30 million a year contract offer from Stephen and Jerry Jones. And Jane Slater of the NFL Network confirms that Dakota Rain Prescott, entering the final year of his contract, did in fact turn down a $30 million a year contract from the Dallas Cowboys. Now, here's what Dak is looking for. Here is the number. Don't get so caught up in the number. Just listen to what I'm about to tell you. Memphis, your man Dak Prescott, Dakota Rain Prescott, 32 wins in his first 3 seasons for the Dallas Cowboys. Pro Bowler for a couple of years, AP Offensive Rookie of the Year. Your man Dak Prescott wants $40 million per season. $40 million. Now, wait a minute. Yes, Dak Prescott, according to Jane Slater of the NFL Network, wants $40 million per. Dak Prescott's not going to get $40 million per season, okay? It's going to be, it's going to be more in the $34 to $35 million range if it gets done, according to Jane Slater of the NFL Network. Now, here's important context around this. My man Patrick Walker of CBS Sports, friend of this show, friend outside of the show, wrote a tremendous article talking about why there is more that meets the eye than Dak Prescott simply turning down $30 million. Now, let's back up for a second. Russell Wilson reset the QB market earlier this year, right? $140 million from the Seattle Seahawks. $107 million guaranteed from the Seattle Seahawks, okay? Then your man Carson Wentz got a brand new deal from the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, here's where Dak Prescott fits into this, okay? Dak Prescott, for all intents and purposes, has accomplished much more than your man Carson Wentz. Yes, Carson Wentz has a Super Bowl ring, but he wasn't the man that delivered that Super Bowl ring. It was your man Nick Foles, who's the starting quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So when you start looking at the numbers, when you start looking at where Dakota Rain Prescott was drafted, a 4th-round selection, of course, Carson Wentz, the former number 2 overall pick in the same draft as your man Dakota Rain Prescott. Dak Prescott has accomplished much more in the NFL. As I mentioned, 32 wins in his first 3 seasons, a couple of Pro Bowls, AP Offensive Rookie of the Year. Dak Prescott has accomplished a significant amount, much more than your man Carson Wentz. Yes, Carson Wentz, if he doesn't get hurt, potentially wins the MVP during that Super Bowl year. But guess what? He tore his ACL. Really hasn't been able to stay healthy consistently enough for the Philadelphia Eagles to give the kind of productivity that your man Dak Prescott, Dakota Rain Prescott, has put on the football field for the Dallas Cowboys. So the numbers don't necessarily look. The numbers in a vacuum. Mo Cheese, what's up? Good to see you here in our YouTube live chat room this afternoon. Look, the numbers in a vacuum for Dak Prescott, the market value for Dak Prescott says that he's a $30+ million quarterback. That is in a vacuum. If you're someone on the outside looking in, does Dak Prescott deserve to be a $30+ million a year quarterback? Probably not. But what we're talking about is the numbers and the market value that a quarterback in today's NFL deserves to get. And guess what, folks? That number is 30 million plus, and it's a little bit better than Carson Wentz and a little bit less than your man Matt Ryan and a little bit less than, of course, than your man Aaron Rodgers or Carson Wentz. Yes, Mo Cheese, Dak said he wants $40 million. That's a negotiating tactic. It's a negotiating ploy. Let's back up for a second. I don't want folks to get caught up in the numbers. There's a game being played here, a game of cat and mouse, a game of chicken being played by Dak Prescott and by Jerry and Stephen Jones. Look, Dak Prescott didn't sign CAA, his agency, to come in here and negotiate a quote-unquote hometown discount. That's not what's going to happen here, folks, with Dakota Rain Prescott. That's not going to happen here, okay? Dak knows what he's worth based on the market that the QBs are getting paid today, and that is well over $30 million. I've even said, look, $33 million will probably get it done. Jay and Slater talking about 34 to 35. That's not necessarily out of the realm of possibility. So for Jerry and Stephen Jones, what they've got to get through their heads, and Jerry Jones snapping those old crinkly fingers of his, he's got to understand this. This is what time it is in the NFL. Dak Prescott, of course, has not accomplished nearly as much as Russell Wilson. But guess what? He has accomplished more. He's accomplished more than Carson Wentz, which is
But here's the thing, Kevin. Russell Wilson's getting but $35 million is what Russell Wilson's contract is worth. How is Dak Prescott asking for 40? I mean, it just seems a little bit too arrogant for a guy that's never been to the NFC Championship game yet.
Look, when you shoot for the moon, sometimes you're going to land on the stars, and he's shooting for the moon. And guess what? I have no problem with that. Look, if you're going to go there, look, if you're Dak Prescott, you have to approach these negotiations from this standpoint. You've accomplished significantly a lot more than some of the guys that are getting paid more than him. Hello,
That's
Matthew
true.
Stafford. That is a
Jimmy
prime
Garoppolo.
example. Jimmy Garoppolo.
Matthew Stafford.
Exactly. There's plenty of guys that Dak Prescott has accomplished a whole lot more than that you would say, look, based on the numbers, based on the accomplishments, based on the accolades, Dak Prescott should be getting paid more than Matthew Stafford, should be getting paid more than Jimmy Garoppolo, should be getting paid more than Carson Wentz, should be getting paid a whole heck of a lot more than Kirk Cousins. That's where we are with Dak Prescott and his negotiation and the mindset that he's coming from. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Don't get caught up in the idea that the Dallas Cowboys don't have enough money to pay all these dudes. The Dallas Cowboys have the money to pay all of these guys. The question is, what numbers will get it done for Dak Prescott, for Amari Cooper, and, of course, Ezekiel Elliott, to me, who's the most important out of all those three to get paid first anyway. You've heard my thoughts. If you go to our YouTube channel, you've seen my thoughts about Ezekiel Elliott and why I think he should continue to hold out to get the money that he thinks he deserves and become the highest paid running back in the NFL. But here's the thing, and why the Dallas Cowboys might want to hurry up and get this thing done with Dakota Rain Prescott, okay? There are other quarterbacks that are coming down the pike that are going to be getting paid much more than Dak Prescott. And the longer the Dallas Cowboys wait to get Dak Prescott done, I'm not saying that Andrew Luck, I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes, who can't even negotiate a new contract right now because it's only his third year in the league. He can negotiate a new one after this upcoming season. But the longer this takes, the more expensive this is going to be for the Dallas Cowboys. Look, they've already messed up by letting Russell Wilson get his new deal. You already messed up by letting Carson Wentz get his new deal and establishing a number there. The longer this takes, the more expensive it's going to get. And the Dallas Cowboys better not put themselves in a position where they have to ask Dak Prescott or make Dak Prescott prove it in a contract year, because that's essentially what this is. This is a contract year for Dak Prescott, and we know how dudes get down most of the time in contract years. They go out and ball. So if this doesn't get done now, you're going to make Dak Prescott go out this year, and you're going to make him go ball, because I'm sure he wouldn't mind necessarily, if he had to, going to prove out his worth again and then put himself in a position where it gets even more expensive next year to pay him. So Dallas might want to pump the brakes and get this done now. Now, $40 million, that's an astronomical number. That is insane. Dak Prescott's never going to get $40 million. But guess what? Like I said, sometimes you shoot for the moon and you land on the stars. The moon is clearly full of $40 million for Dak Prescott to go ask for. He's probably going to land on the stars somewhere, and those stars are around $33 to $35 million. And guess what? that's okay, because relative to what the Dallas Cowboys may be trying to pay Dak Prescott, may be a little less than what Matthew Stafford is making relative to the cap percentage that he already gets. That's a problem if you're Dak Prescott, and you do not want to be in a position where you're getting, yes, maybe the same dollar amount as far as a Matthew Stafford or someone of that nature, but at the same time, a percentage less than the cap that a guy in Matthew Stafford's already getting. That's not what time it is if you're Dak Prescott. And here again is the other portion of this that we've got to talk about. The collective bargaining agreement is coming up very soon. If the NFL and the NFLPA do not get themselves, and they've already had meetings this week too, and one of the things they have not talked about and not gotten on the table yet is the revenue split yet between the NFLPA and the NFL owners. They've got to work that out. There's a potential work stoppage coming, and if players are trying to get their money now, Melvin Gordon, Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott, they're trying to get their financial future set because a work stoppage most likely is coming. But at the same time, that's an underrated, underlying issue with all of these negotiations for all these guys trying to get their money. But more importantly, for the Dallas Cowboys, get this done as quickly as possible. You've established numbers from the Dallas Cowboys side of things, $30 million. Dak Prescott, an astronomical $40 million. So guess what? It's time to meet in the middle, around $33 to $35 million. Should get this done and get it done quickly, because then you got to turn your attention to Ezekiel Elliott. And to me, that is the most important aspect about all of this. Look, Ezekiel Elliott could effectively walk into Jerry and Stephen Jones' office and say, look, the reason why Dak's getting his $35 million, why Amari Cooper is going to get his $14 to $15 million, whatever he's going to get as the number one wide receiver for this Dallas Cowboy football team, it's because of me, Ezekiel Elliott. I make this thing
right.
Go. So look.
Well, let me ask you this, Kevin. Let me ask you this, because this is a really good. If you are the Dallas Cowboys, if you're Jerry Jones, who do you prioritize here? Ezekiel Elliott or Dak Prescott? I mean,
Ezekiel Elliott.
Ezekiel?
I've said it from day one. Ezekiel Elliott is the reason why all of this is even possible. When you spend the number 4 overall selection on a running back, you are making that player a focal point, if not the focal point, of your entire football team, because he sets the tone, obviously, from the running back position and the smash mouth running style that he has. But you're also allowing your defense to be fresh and be able to play faster and to play longer because he's chewing up the clock. Ezekiel Elliott is the most important football player on the Dallas Cowboys football team. It's not Dakota Rain Prescott. It's not Amari Cooper. It's not Jalen Smith. It's not Travis Frederick. It is Ezekiel Elliott. But at the same time, Dak Prescott is a byproduct of what Ezekiel Elliott's been able to produce from the running back position, making it easier for him. And again, it's a contract year. Most dudes go out and ball in their contract years. So if you're the Dallas Cowboys, you do not want to be in a position where you're saying, you know what, Dak, we're going to back off. We're going to back off. We're going to make you prove it one more year this year, and we're going to have you go out there this season, and let's see what you can do, and then we'll revisit these talks after the season is over with. Let's say Dak Prescott goes out there and throws for 4,500 yards, 35 touchdowns, only 10 picks, and leads the Cowboys to another division championship. That's an expensive move if Jerry and Steven are trying to play here. I don't think that's the move that you want to make, but guess what? Everything is now getting on the table, and this is what I don't like. I don't like these things being negotiated publicly. Most of the time when these things get done, they get done with things quiet down. It's really loud, and I know that's an oxymoron with describing the Dallas Cowboys because they like to be loud about everything that they do. But at the same time, when this gets done, how it gets done, it will get done when both sides shut up and stop talking about it in the media. Yes, Ezekiel Elliott is down there in Cabo doing his thing. Amari Cooper, is doing his thing quietly, handling his business. You're starting to hear, obviously, the rumblings about the numbers coming out between Dak Prescott and Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones and what they feel like he should be paid going into next year. And here's the other part I don't like about all this before we go to break. I don't like the language that the Dallas Cowboys use in talking about these contract offers that they're talking about with Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott and Amari Cooper. Talking about the idea, especially with Ezekiel Elliott, that is a quote-unquote generous offer that they've made. We've generously put these players and offered them contracts within the top 5 highest paid at their position. This is not about generosity. This is some kind of charity. These are football players participating in car crashes for 3 hours on a time for 16 weeks, 17 weeks at a time, 20 weeks depending on if you get to the Super Bowl. I don't want to hear about generosity. I don't want to hear about your charity giving out these contracts. These guys have earned it. Dak Prescott has earned the right to ask, I guess, for $40 million. Ezekiel Elliott has more than enough earned the right to ask to be the highest paid player, highest paid running back in the National Football League. They've earned the right to at least ask for those things. So don't come to me, Jerry. Don't come to me, Steven, talking about some generosity and what you've generously offered Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, and Amari Cooper. You could shut up with that. These dudes have earned it. And more importantly, it's time to pay them. I don't want this to be a distraction for the Cowboys going into the rest of this preseason and into the regular season, because the way the things are going for Ezekiel Elliott, at least, this thing could last into the regular season. It's not what time it is if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, especially listening to this show. You don't want to hear about